Today, we are doing a reboot of the original nail tutorial that I did. This is the light Starburst nail. And it's really just a textured chrome nail, and we can get all of that nice sparkle without having to do a big chunky nail. And then I did some variations at the end using some cat eyes, because of course I do. Also, I just got a new mic set up, so I kind of feel like I should be announcing like a boxing match right now, or maybe PBS, here. Today on The Painted Nail, we're going to visit with a world-renowned nail artist and get a little glimpse into her process. So stay tuned. I'm your host, Sarif Le Pen. Welcome to The Painted Nail. Okay, like for real, I can't guarantee that that's not going to happen several more times before I get used to this mic. Okay, back to business, I swear. Okay, we are starting out. I really like using syrup gels. I just don't like opaque gels. I don't know why, but I don't. So this is a DVOC, what was that, DS11? And it's just a muted green gray. The original nail, I was going for, a syrupy, jadey green. So anything in that range, along with the pink, is going to get you these sorts of tones. And you can shift it by switching up what you're using. So I'm just doing a single coat. You could do two if you wanted to get more color, etc. Okay, we cure that for 60 seconds. And now we're going to do our Aurora ombre. This is my absolute favorite ombre brush, or otherwise known as a rake brush. I'll have this in the lists and supplies as well. And we are using this really great, bright, hot pink from Born Pretty's Summer Soda Ice Jelly set. It's number 6. And so I'm just roughly painting in the center where I want the sort of Aurora effect to go. And then I'm just going to pat with my rake brush. I always just call it a rake brush because that's what I'm used to calling it. Ombre brush, whatever you want to call it. You can only get this particular brush in a set, but it's super inexpensive. And I have more expensive ones, and I have been using this particular brush for several years now, like cleaning it in acetone, etc. And it still is going strong. Now I'm including this in here right now because I want you to notice what that gel is starting to do. It is starting to bead up on the surface of the DVOC. Those two aren't playing nice together. A lot of the Korean gels have a much thicker inhibition layer. So we're going to need to just wipe this off with rubbing alcohol to clean the surface and then start over again. And then it should work okay. Okay, I have wiped that off with rubbing alcohol and reapplied the pink. And now I am just going in with my brush and I am just patting the edges. I am just trying to soften the edges of the polish. And as that brush gets loaded with the polish, I just have one of my little lint-free cloths off to the side with some alcohol on it. And I am going to clean that off as it gets loaded with polish. Because if you do not do that, you are just going to redeposit that polish everywhere where we're trying to get that nice fade. So that's the only way you can do this. Now, if you like using pat gels, great, do that. I just like the results I get, with this particular polish. And so I am just going around and doing that. And you can manipulate it a little bit if you want it to go more up into the point. Then I will draw that brush into the polish more to actually get polish up in there. But if you are just trying to soften the edges and get that blur, you really just want to be patting along in the same line. I'm not actually brushing the polish out to the edge. And we'll just double time it through this so we can see the process, but not get too bored looking at it. And that is what I have. That's why I like using the jelly polishes. You just get really nice transitions on them. Okay, and now we just cure that. And then we're going to be on to our texture layer. Okay, for our texture gel, we need to use the Macart Sculpted Gel Paint. They more recently had that 3D Masterpiece nail gel on Amazon, so I bought it to see what it was because I didn't know if they renamed the Sculpted Gel Paint, but it's a different thing. It's slightly stiffer. It's great, but I find the Sculpted Gel Paint takes chrome better. And since this is textured chrome that we're doing, use that. And you can apply this either with a brush or with the toothpick we're going to use to scrape the line work into it, because that's what we're going to use. You want something very thin and sharp. I don't like to clean brushes, so I just smear it on with the toothpick. Kokoist also has their non-wipe accessory bond. That will also work. Whatever you're using, it has to be a non-wipe, and it cannot self-level at all. It has to keep every brush stroke in it. Otherwise, you are just going to be fighting whatever you are doing, and it's always going to try to level out. The other thing to note is you really only need a very thin layer of this to get this effect. And that is why I kind of came up with this way of doing it, because I did not like this chunky, when people are putting all the 3D clay gel, it just makes such a thick nail. I don't like it. Now, if you have a brush that's kind of crappy that maybe might have some partially cured gel on it or something, so it's more like a little rake, you could start this pattern with that brush and then just refine it with a toothpick. That also works. I had a brush like that, and I think I may have cleaned it too much, and now it doesn't work. When you're applying the gel, you just don't want any big globs on there. So kind of relatively smooth, but doesn't matter. Then clean off your toothpick or get a fresh new one. And that is what we're going to be scraping our line work in with. And then just pick a center point that you like. Sometimes on the more stiletto nails, it's nicer to do the center point more on the, under the half point. Kind of looks, more elegant. And just start scraping the surface of the nail, and you're going to have to get the feel of it because it's slippery, and at first your lines are going to kind of go everywhere, so you just kind of have to learn how to get the control over how that thing's moving over that curved nail surface. And the great thing about this is all uncured gel, so you can kind of go over the stuff you mess up. Side note, rest in peace to your sanity if you do this on your own nails and you have to now do your dominant hand, and your non-dominant hand has to do straight lines on slippery, uncured gel on a curved surface. Ask me how I know. You can also vary the pattern you're doing. Sometimes I like to do a very straight-edged Starburst pattern. Every line is straight, and it looks very jewel faceted kind of thing going on. And other times it's fun to kind of, as you get towards the center part, to arc them, like the line is arcing up and then falling to earth, like gravity, like a firework would. And I do have other variations on this nail, kind of having to do with that I will hopefully get up on here, maybe redo for YouTube on this horizontal format. But this is the very first one I did. So we're starting with this one. Just keep making your lines, and the same with this, you need to continually clean off your toothpick. That's the only way you're going to get clean scrape lines. If you just keep doing it with the buildup on the tip, it's just going to be mushy. And this nail, what really sells this look is crisp, clean line work on it. And you also really want the lines very close together. I don't want to see any sloppy line work. I feel like I need to be the Russian ballet teacher. Do not show me your sloppy lines. I love a good Russian accent, and I do not have one. Okay, and as we are getting towards the end here and you're starting to refine your lines more, you're being a little more careful, make sure you're going to the edges of the nail because it's easy to forget about that. And it's also, you're going to get sharper lines if, I don't know if this makes sense, but if your toothpick stays at a 90-degree angle to the nail, it's easy to kind of start using it at an angle and it's actually swiping a thicker amount of polish off, if that makes sense. So check, your edges on the side, and then you can also do a little star kind of cleanup in the center if you'd like. And then we are going to cure that for 60 seconds. And that is what I have for my nail. A quick little tip, when you are using these sort of thicker gels, put that lid on. They will start to cure if you have bright lighting at your table where you are working. So try to remember to close them. Okay, now for the fabulous fun part, orange sparkles. So I love several of the Kokoist Liquid Mirror Chromes. This is number 8, orange. Now, the labels normally go all the way around the bottle and you cannot see what is going on. So here's some tips of what I do. I immediately cut part of that back of the label off so that I can see what's going on in there, because you need to shake these up because it settles fairly often and quickly. And if you do not close your bottles really well and keep the threads clean, because buildup can start drying on it, these will evaporate on you. And there is nothing more heartbreaking than going into your fabulous orange chrome and it's evaporated. Liquid chromes can be a little tricky to use. You can use a powdered chrome for this. I just find that this orange is particularly strong. You get a very vibrant effect, and I love it. And here's a little shot. There's some crusties starting to form. And let me tell you, this stuff can evaporate quick if you're not careful. I wish they sold the solution to reconstitute it. You can use rubbing alcohol to a certain extent, but if it's completely evaporated, you're going to lose some of the qualities of it being a liquid chrome, because these sort of have a film forming agent in them, which is why they stick to the nail so well and why we treat them a little differently than powdered chromes. Like, you cannot use these for isolated chrome. It will still stick to everything. So to use these, don't use it straight from the brush. You will put way, way, way too much on the nail and it'll look chalky. So I use one of the dense ombre sponges and I just put it on there first and then rub it onto the nail. And it does not have to be a nice, neat application. And you might need to go in 2 times with it, dab some on, and smear it around on the nail. Just get it around on all the areas of the nail. And then after we do that, we are going in with a softer sponge. I like the eyeshadow sponges. And I'm putting a little bit of alcohol. I'm not dousing it in alcohol. I just want it to wet it so it can, basically we're re-wetting the liquid chrome. And this is going to get us the smooth application and get it into everywhere we need. And it is also going to remove any extra chrome we have on there so that we don't get a chalky feel. I go to the softer sponge because I feel like if you continue to use those ombre denser sponges, the squares, you will start to take off the chrome. So there is a method to the madness here. And the nice thing about this liquid chrome, if you feel like you're noticing an area that's feeling kind of spotty and grainy, you can go back in and just reapply some chrome in there. Because it has this adhesive quality, it really sticks. And the reason we kind of have to go in and re-wet it is because the solution it's in evaporates super, super quickly. And so we're basically redistributing it with that little eyeshadow brush with the alcohol on it. And the other key thing to this liquid chrome afterwards, you really need to buff it out hard. Use a gloved finger and buff it and just keep doing it. And you will start to see a different shine happen with it. You can use, one of those silicone little, basically a fake finger thing, whatever it is, but you really do need to buff it and you will be able to tell a big difference. That could be the difference between it looking glittery or slightly cloudy or chalky and getting that sparkle shine to it. Also, the alcohol step is only for liquid chrome. It will take off powdered chrome, so don't do that if you're using the powdered chrome. And look how gorgeous that is, even before we top coat it. But that's it, we just need to top coat now. My 2 favorite top coats are the Kokoist Ultra Glossy, which was my old standby, but this year I bought the Yogo Zombie top coat, and I really love that. To me, and I know for the Kokoist, it was probably a feature, not a bug, but it can feel rubbery at times, which is probably why it's really scratch resistant. And I'm really harsh on my nails, so that's why it was my old standby. But I'm really liking the zombie stuff. But as you can see, as my hesitation right there, I just realized I got my nice fancy top coat straight from the bottle and then started wiping it all over a chrome nail. When I really should have put it on a little palette and used a separate brush that will not go back in the bottle. Luckily, because this is liquid chrome, we don't have as many problems with the chrome coming off onto the brushes you're using, but still. Oh, and one thing to note about this nail, the chrome may look a little more opaque before you get the top coat on it. So don't worry, it'll get a little more transparent once we get the top coat on, and then you'll sort of get that really nice glittery glow of everything going on. Okay, well that's curing. If you're looking for some budget, medium viscosity top coats, which the 2 I showed just a second ago are good medium viscosity ones, so they cover things well. The Double Rhythm glossy top coat from Amazon is a really good thicker top coat. And the EJ or Jayi, I don't know how to say it, that you can get from Temu and like AliExpress and stuff. That is also a really good medium viscosity top coat and is apparently a great copolymer based top coat. Okay, and here is our finished nail. And it just has so much nice sparkle, and you can do a bunch of little variations on this. And I'm going to show a couple in just a couple seconds here, where I'm going to use a couple different cat eyes as the base color, but then we are still going to use the same hot pink and the same texture and the same orange chrome, just so you can kind of get an idea. And one of the cat eye ones is just gorgeous. I love it. And I do have some darker versions of this as full tutorials that I will try to add to YouTube at some point in the near future, because there's just so many different directions you can take this general concept. But look at that. They're just so nice and sparkly. And then you don't have a thick, chunky nail. Okay, our very first variation is the original base for this nail. It's the Gao 2343 from their mint green little 6 polish set. The second base variation is a My Gothic cat eye from their Silky Dew collection. It's number 13. And I'm just showing it so you can see how it looks on the nail. And then that is how I magnetized this one. Third up is another one from the Silky Dew, number 11. It's more of a pale bright yellow compared to the peach. And this whole collection, and I believe all of My Gothic's polishes are HEMA free, if that's important or necessary for you, just so you know. And I think this was my absolute favorite. At the end, you'll see I really just magnetized it to the one side, and I think that had the best effect out of any of the cat eyes. Fourth variation is number 13 from the My Gothic Oat collection, and this is like a khaki, beigey green that also has speckles and some little copper particles in it. So I wanted to see if this would make any difference texturally in the background for this kind of nail. And now I'll just do a quick shot. This is all of them with their pink ombre Aurora layer on them. Okay, and then at the last second, I decided to add a more beige one. This is Nico Gel number 4 from their Juicy Fruit cat eye collection. It's at least 12 cat eyes in the collection, all fruit themed, which is great because lots of colored mag particles. Okay, and here they all are with their striations on them for the Starburst pattern. And just like magic, look, they're all done and top coated. And so these are in the exact order that I painted them in, just so we can see, did that make much of a difference? I like just doing tests like this to see. So that's the original on the left, the slightly darker peachy cat eye, the pale yellow cat eye, which I love, the speckly gel, which did it do much in the end because we have the chrome over it, and then the darker beigey one. That one probably has the most difference in general color of all of them. But you can see how you can just mess around with slight changes. Now, these were all very similar base colors, which is kind of what I wanted to see, because you'll see in a second when I put the first one up that we did, it can make a difference. So now I'm going to get the original one we made back up here. Now look at that one. That was still just a pale, jadey-ish green color. That's the Divock base. But that one does make a difference in the general appearance of the nail. So, that one definitely stays more in a hazy, cloudy, gray, blue undertone, whereas these all kind of have that goldeny yellow-green tinge. And if you notice those 3 nails in the center and the background, they have a slightly redder, peachier look to the pink. I had just gone in and I did a second layer with a more reddish, peachy orange color. And so I was able to shift the tone of that part of the nail as well. Okay, so now we just get to look at everything we just made in all its glory. I mean, just look at these gorgeous burnt sunset-y pinks and orange and pale greens and the shimmer. I just love this combination. I will never get tired of it. And also, I want to point out, only some of these are cat eye. The way that this Aurora orange chrome and these pale colors work together, those first 2 nails are just a syrup base with the pink in the center and then the textured chrome on top. And they also have a glow coming to them, just like the cat eyes. The cat eyes have more, but even just that very simple form of this really is eye-catching and shines and flashes back. I mean, you're really getting a lot of bang for your buck with this combo. If you think about the ingredients in it, syrup gels, and Aurora Chrome. There you go. Voila. It's like magical fairyland. I love it. And if you stayed this long, you're an intergalactic nail nerd. Just saying.